I can't help it. I'm supposed to let the car cure and all that sort of crap, but playing with the three-rotor makes me want to fire up the three-rotor, and right now it's having an issue that we need to dig through. That is my excuse. I'm sticking to it. Let's just fire it up. These guys that are loading up a truck outside of here are about to get a taste of rotary. I feel bad for them. Now I have the key. Come on back, and oops, she's running like super lean in some spots. You saw that happen as I gave it a little bit of a rev. There is the issue. Something's going on with it running lean. Either that's a fuel injector sticking closed or something else. So step one is, what I'm going to do is try to isolate the electric lines, my beautiful wiring harness, away from the block. And with that, I'm going to use some material that was given to me by PTP Turbo, blankets. PTP has been a long supporter of my channel, and they send me their sick ass little blanket, and I run it like crazy because it makes a huge difference. I made a video testing that with the actual infrared camera, and the fact is it works. So they sent me some other heat management devices. One of them that is like a fiberglassy type thing. So I'm gonna insert that between the engine and my wiring harness. Hopefully that isolates whatever sort of grounding issue I might have, because as you may know, fuel injectors, at least on the Adaptronic, ground out to open. They ground out to do their thing. Simple enough. We gotta watch out if it's grounding or not grounding, something weird's going on. And this side certainly has to be conductive, but this side can't be. I did a couple basic moves because I realized that piece was not gonna work because I have so many lines grounded to each of the irons for all of the ignition. I pulled the major part of the harness off of the block, so if there was melting wires or anything like that, and they melted and shorted. Not only did I pull the harness off of the block, but I also pulled up one of the biggest changes that happened since the engine was running good to running bad, and that's the excess wire loop that was actually dragging on the ground or touching the exhaust downpipe. I can't tell. It was definitely causing some problems with being way too long. I'm gonna wait for the O2 sensor to warm up so that way it really tells me answers immediately. Anytime now. Wow. Why are you so lean? All right, let's look at the facts here. I'm a big fan of management by measurement, and we've clearly got some measurements here. It is running lean when it makes those weird noises. Therefore, it's not getting enough fuel. I am going to assume one of two things are currently occurring. Either A, it is lean across the board and all three rotors on all three primary injectors are lean, or B, one of the rotors is running lean. The airflow mixes between all three in the exhaust, so your wideband O2 can only register the combination of them. So one of them could be running super lean and the other two kind of bring it back down to more of a normal level. So step one is definitely to diagnose whether it's one rotor or three rotors, and is it wiring or is it tuning? I'm basically a moron and completely waffle stomped, as some of you saw on Instagram, the screen off of my beautiful little laptop. So I have to use my desktop monitor, HDMI'd out, to actually be able to see this laptop. There we go. To see this laptop so I can review what's going on in the ECU. Good job, Rob. Part of me wants to and will not so secretly continue to blame the spiders for all of this shit that they're not letting the car run. I'm gonna guess that they got in there and sabotaged it. Rumor has it that Black Widows love LS swaps. All right, we are connected. Okay, ignition cut. Yeah, we're not dealing with any cuts at the moment. We're gonna look at tuning the fuel map. Let's watch this. Let's see what happens, right? Okay, well, can't even get to that point. Ew. That's definitely not the fuel map. That was even worse than before. And I'm gonna watch those after the fact to see if I see anything with those first 6 injectors doing weird shit. Particularly, I'm assuming 1, 3, and 5. I guess that's how it's set up. oh, okay, never mind. What I'm gonna do now is take off the upper intake manifold, inspect all 3 primary injectors, make sure there's nothing potentially clogging them, so that way I can kind of build backwards and say, okay, the mechanics are there, the fuel is clearly pressurizing the fuel rail, it's all there. Then hunt down the electronics. Doing the previous tests, I found that all 3 of the primaries and all 3 of the secondary injectors are actually registering well with the ECU. So at this point, I'm gonna use this little half-ass catch can and drain the fuel lines and then pull the primary fuel, but I'll pull both of them, pull both the fuel rails off and check the tops of the injectors to make sure there's no blockage from there. This might look a little precarious, and it is, but look at this. I was able to drain the entire amount of fuel that was in the upper rail out into a receptacle. That's the most adult thing I've done in the last 34 years of my life. I'm gonna take a look at both the tops and bottoms of all 3 of the secondary injectors and then do the same to the primaries. There's the tip of an ID 1700X injector. You can't look at the inside of this yet because it's got the hat on there. So I'm gonna remove this and then take a look at the top filter, basically. It's like the last catch before it goes into the injector. Aw, the 1700 is amazingly adorably cute. The connector itself is actually bigger. Something that caught my attention almost immediately is that gunk right there. It's a little dark inside of there, but yeah, I think that there's room to clean. And one of the biggest reasons I'm doing this as a first step is because I ran this car for quite a while without a fuel filter out of necessity to make content, just to please you guys, and I might be paying the price for that at the moment. I'm not gonna say that's a groundbreaking, obvious answer, but there's certainly some buildup on that tip. Of course, I would suspect if an injector is gonna get crap on it on the bottom, I would feel like it would be more likely to leak open, not closed. And there we have the primary rail with various phases of pulling out method. Some of them are definitely going to have kids when they're older. This is also giving me an idea to do another sort of diagnostics, which is going to be firing up the ECU and unplugging and plugging in each of these to make sure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because I'm thinking if it does lean out every so often, maybe I swap the primary and a secondary. I don't know. Doesn't seem that plausible because it does run normal and then it kicks out. So we'll just do the diagnostic process. These, by the way, are my 1050X ID injectors. These are my primaries, and they're so efficient with the Adaptronic, basically pre-inputted profile in these, that, oh my God, the pulse width and all that sort of crap makes this a very, very capable primary injector, especially for idling and all those sort of real nice trim details on your fuel system. So highly recommend it here. I wish Paul Yaw saw my love towards them and took pity upon me for how much at least the secondaries cost, especially for the 4-rotor. Ta-da! Got all the fuel rails hooked back up. I'm gonna go ahead and plug all of the injectors in, go to the computer and unplug them one by one and make sure the correct 1 through 6 shows up. We're gonna look at this corner at the top here, and then I'm gonna flick the switch from master. I have the key on already. Okay, so this stuff should have primed. We have all 6, whatever 7 and 8 are reading way higher. So I'm gonna go ahead and unplug what should be primary 1. There we go. And primary 1 does read 1 point blank volts. Let's go ahead and plug primary 1 back in. I'm gonna go ahead and unplug number 2, and that is number 2. And then finally number 3, and that is number 3. So I do have the 3 primaries correctly plugged into their appropriate spots. So this should be number 4. I'm gonna guess rotor 1 is number 4. It is. I am bummed out that we didn't find an immediate culprit, but we're gonna fire it up after cleaning out all 6 injectors, confirming all 6 are wired properly. Okay, laptop's gonna turn off right at a very critical moment. All right, let's try this again. Got good old TPS working. No. Don't tease me. I'm gonna fire up the V. I only have so much time before I die. Definitely reading a little bit higher, 12.6. Wow, okay, playing with the fuel. All right, this is much better. But let's see if it stays this way. All right, my curiosity is once it gets to 4,000 RPM, it really starts breaking up. So I want to make sure it can do that. That's a good sign. I'm gonna take it for a real quick spin.